Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and today for you we have a video all about my least favorite variety, Type 1 and Type 2, 1979 and 1981 proof US coins. And actually this video is most about the ones that I dislike, which is the 1981. So the 79s are super easy. For those of you who don't know, here's the quick course overview. In 1979, they had two different types of mint marks on the proof coins, and the Type 1 is basically a blob. Look at all that lint. You'd think we live in a desert. But basically, the mint mark is just a blob, and so they redid it, and easy peasy, all you got to do is find a coin that does not look like a blob for the 1979s, and you're in. So here's a Type 2. You can see that the S is noticeably not a blob, unlike this fellow here. So that's easy peasy. All the 79s are like that, where the S, the openings in the S are just completely closed off, and it's like they gave up trying. So that's not the hard part. That is not a big thing. The big thing is trying to grab a 1981 proof set instead and look at all the varieties and look at the difference between the Type 1 and the Type 2. So on the 79s, the Type 1 is the common blob, and in 1979, the Type 2 is the open S. And now you get to the 1981s. So the 1981s, they had a better S already going for them. And so when you look at these at first, you're like, oh, okay. Well, see, that's not a blob. But this is basically the remnant of the Type 2 79s. So basically in between 1979 and 1981, for all you mathematicians out there, you nerds, that's right, there was 1980. And in 1980, they just kept the dies the same. So if you think about it, you have somewhere in 79 they made the transition, all the through 80 they kept the transition the same. And then in 81 sometime they switched to a new die. And they have actual coins that you can see. You can actually see better. So on this one, the quarter is going to be the Type 2. And for those of you who are looking at this saying, well, that looks everything just like what we looked at on the other ones, now is the part for the education to come in and to explain the main difference between the Type 1s and the Type 2s. So here we go with a handy chart that the engineer put together, showing images of the differences between the 1s and the 2s. And so here's the nickels. And then down here you're looking at the quarter. Now I'm going to see if you can kind of see the pattern here. This is my least favorite. No, that's the half dollar. The half dollar. That's this one. These photos are pretty extreme. By the way, the dies change a little bit over time, so this gets more and more dramatic. The dollar. And the hard part is, it used to be described to me as the open, right? So, but you can see that they're both fairly well open, and now they describe it as the flat, Type 1 and Type 2 dime. And no photo. Someone missed photo day? Unbelievable. Abe. All right, so what you're looking at here is the way that the die is actually carved upward, and these are all flat. Look at the Type 2s. It's as though they took the top part and flattened it. The hard part for all of this is to be able to see actually from the edge. So instead of that, we're actually going to draw something really quick, and then we'll take a closer look again. So if you're looking at just a side view of the coin, you know, the lettering comes up a whole lot more like this from the side view. If this is the side view. And then on these ones, it comes up on the Type 2s. So this is the 1, this is the 2. It's going to be a lot more flat. So they actually just use the term now flat when they talk about it. So it's like they just took that part and they just flattened it off the top here, right? So this can still be tricky because they all have the opening still. So as an example of just how tricky this can be, this is actually labeled as a type 2, and up close and personal, it doesn't look super open, which was the original listing style that I was told when I was a kid. So we're going to try to get that super sharp angle to look and see, does the mint mark look rounded or flat? And so in this one, I think you can see fairly well that it has a flat top to it. Here, by way of comparison, is a 79 type 2, and the mint mark itself sticks up at a higher angle. This is still fairly subtle, in my opinion, and so that is one of the reasons why I've called it at times my least favorite variety. Let's see what else we got here for type 1s and type 2s on our 1981s. I think I had another example here on an 81 for us to look at. So on this 1981, we had a type 2 on the dime. This is also a thing that I find really, well, to me interesting. To everyone else, this is because this is not 100% true all the time. To me, the type 2s definitely look like the mint marks upside down. Like some of them have a top-heavy design, so like the S looks really normal here. But this isn't the case on all of them. And on here, if you look at it, it looks to me like it is upside downish. All right, let's compare some mint marks again. So here we've got that dime with see the top of the S is flattened. Let's see if we can see this on, let's go look at get my tag out of the way here. Some of these other S's and see if they look to be flat at all. And the toning and whatnot is always there. So you can see how clear the S is, but it also has a higher point to it in the middle, that higher ledge. See, this one's really tricky here on this guy. That guy I would say is also the type 2. The quarter I think was also a type. It's hard to find the sets all in type 2. That's very scarce for whenever they made the transition. So this S mint mark I would say is the type 1 on this guy on the quarter, looking a lot more flat. And so people collect these by the varieties, the type 1 and 2, but also in the marketplace there is some demand differences for the coins and of course the different grades. You know, the hard part is especially the pennies. So if you look at these, you know, pennies, look, that guy's got spots on them and everything. So in general, most of these on the 81s, your 69 grades are not super expensive comparatively so, but some of the 70s are really expensive. The Susan B. Anthony is, of course, still considered the toughest in the series, with the Type 2 coin being about $100 in 69, but like close to 370. They all jump in 70. The Kennedy goes from about 45 to 300. The Washington quarter goes from 15 to about 145. The Roosevelt dime from 18 to 100. The Jefferson nickel from $10 to 240. They don't even put a price on Proof 70 cameos on the 1981 Type 2 pennies. The Type 1s are even super scarce. This is actually the gray sheet bids. This is the Type 1s. We have a raw column here also. Raw column here, but also your 69s and then your 70s. Look at those huge numbers. Same thing on the 1979 series. Your 69s to 70s have these giant jumps in them. So for those of you who are cherry picking, forget about trying to find the variety. Just try to get a 70 on the penny. That's like the lesson, the actual takeaway from this lesson here. But hopefully some of these images here are very helpful for you to see the differences up close and personal. Some good camera work by the engineer there, using a microscope to see the differences on these guys. Just note that flat top on those, and just remember they're not always that easy to tell unless you have something to compare them to. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. I've been the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the owl button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.